it. We really evaluated the information that we were given to see where it fit in with our life. And it absolutely changed every single aspect of our life, from Michelle's health, my work environment, how our kids grew up. And I always go back to that blessing that we had at the Westford Low 13 years ago, because Nikki was brave enough to introduce us and get us in front of the information. So what I would ask each of you is, just as you're hearing this information, if you're hearing it for the first time, is just really ask yourself, what if? You know, what if the stuff that Dr. Nancy is sharing with us is true? How could that impact your life, but also the domino effect that it could have if other people in your life can need to hear this info, if they listen to it as well? And I don't know what else we could have done in the last 13 years that would have had the same domino effect or impacted more people than this blessing has for us. So Dr. Nancy, I mean, her list of what she's done in life, it goes on and on and on. And she does this because she wants to help other people. And she knows that there's an opportunity with this company to really impact people's lives. And we do it on, I would say, 3 different ways. The first and the most obvious is through the products and impacting people's health. The second is the business side of it. And the third thing that I never, ever expected out of this was the personal development and just making people truly better versions of themselves, surrounded by a community of people that just love people. And we love to see other people be able to have just a better life and a quality of life. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Nancy. She sits on our scientific advisory board. She helps develop the products. She's developed a lot of the products that you're going to hear about today. They've got amazing stuff in the pipeline that she's not allowed to tell us yet. But I think that this is going to blow your mind of what we see and the issues that people deal with on a day-to-day basis that we really can't avoid. So it's really just, how can you get your body working the most optimal way? And that's what we do. This is just, we're not here to sell you on anything, but just really evaluate where it fits in with your life. Because to me, if you really pay attention to this, you pay attention to what Dr. Nancy tells you, it's not a question of if you're going to take these products. It's just, are you going to do it as a consumer, a customer, or are you going to be a voice of the products too and share it with other people? So I'll turn it over to Dr. Nancy. Thank you.
First and foremost, thank you all for taking your time to be here. Yeah, I'm just in awe and so humbled to see this many people really care about what's going on in their own bodies. Because you know what? We're all the CEOs of our own bodies, right? Yeah. And so just to touch on my background, I grew up in Holland, Michigan. Anybody ever heard of Holland, Michigan? You got lots of tulips, wooden shoes, the whole 9 yards. Well, that sounds great, except my stepfather's last name was Ciccarelli. He was Italian. There were a lot of people that were like, wait, how do you say that? How do you spell that? Nobody got it right. It was always wrong. They all made fun of me. So I had to decide early on if that was going to bother me or not. And I decided early on, thanks to my grandmother, who gave me this lovely thought, can't fix stupid. I decided early on, it was not going to bother me. And they were entitled to their own opinion, but I was running with my own. And so that led me to an adventure of wanting chemistry sets instead of Barbie dolls. And you know what? My life has been pretty much being a pioneer. And that holds true even with what we're doing here today. I had a lot of things that I did. My first job, I worked for Eli Lilly Company. I was the first female sales rep for them in the late 70s. And let me tell you, that was an adventure. All the people around me were guys that were a lot older than me and looked at me like, what are you doing here? And I learned a lot from that. It was when I finished pharmacy school, I didn't see myself dispensing because I already had a degree in molecular biochemistry and new cells way back then. The chemistry of the balance of the cell and how important that was. And then I started learning about these drugs and I'm like, well, there's a purpose and a place, but that can't be the answer all the time. There's got to be other answers. And get this, when I went to pharmacy school, we had a greenhouse that was huge, like this whole big area here. And we had to learn the medicinal purpose of every plant in there. Well, guess what? A few years later, they ripped that out. They don't have those in pharmacy schools anymore. I'm so blessed that I have that. And of course, I was ignorant that it was in there every day looking at all of it because I thought it was so amazing that my body could do that. So I never saw myself being a person that was going to work in that world. I had a family full of diabetes. I wanted to figure out if there were ways that we could, and that was always my focus. And as I finished up and ended up meeting my husband, don't tell anybody I was his boss. Took me forever to say, yeah, okay, I'll go out with you, but yeah, that's why I'm not to drink tequila too. Sorry. The bottom line was, I just always had a passion in my heart to make a difference, to have the empathy for other people with what was going on with them, and that there had to be better answers. And I loved being able to take a look at plant parts and seeing what they did. So fast forward, I owned several businesses. I left my husband work for 40 years. And I got tired of people, so I opened a pharmacy. That was fun. But the bottom line was I was always in search of, what was next. And I worked myself to a frenzy all the time, way too much. How many of us are too busy, right? We all, in our today world, it's tough. And you know what? I came from kind of a simple place. I told everybody earlier today, when I took my pharmacy boards, this is going to really share with you how old I am. I could not use a calculator because everyone had one. We had to use a slide rule. And who here knows what a slide rule is? Okay. Yeah. And words took 4 or 5 days because it took that long to figure it out on a slide rule, right? So you fast forward into today's world, it's a different place. And that is going faster and faster, as many of you know, right? One of the biggest things that I did not control though was stress. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about that. And as a result of it, I ended up with a very, very nasty form of cancer. I won't go into the details of it, but I was not in a good place. And this is the important thing you need to take away. A surfer told me about this. Okay? Not my doctor, not a nurse practitioner, no healthcare person. It was a surfer. And it was because he was a dear friend of mine. He knew a lot about these kinds of companies because he did a lot of pay plans for a lot of them. And when he saw what this company had, he shared with me a study. And I'll go into that in greater detail later. But basically, it's from LSU. And when I saw that study, it blew my mind because for the first time, I was looking at a nutritional product that had a study by trade name that was being paid. The study was being paid by someone else. It was at LSU, American University, not some place in China. And it had exactly the problem that I had going on with my mom. And as a result of it, that surfer asking me questions about that study, that's how I became familiar with this company. And I had no intention of ever doing it as a business. I had no intention of ever being the person standing in front of the room. I can tell you that. I was never planning that. I just wanted to survive. I was in a wheelchair. The medications I was on had destroyed my body. I was still alive, but barely. And when I saw the information, you're going to be asking these questions for yourself tonight. Is this real? And the second part of it is this something that I want to share with other people? And we don't care what it is that you choose to do with it. We're here to share that information, and then you can make the choice, and we're here to help answer those questions. All right. So having said that, needless to say, I got started on the product. And they gave me 2 years in 2011. I'm still here. Mitigate, better cure. But what I can tell you is our bodies are capable of returning back to activation. That's what we're talking about here. So, in our, as you can see here, our daily conversations, we're here because guess what? More and more people every day have a lot of problems that aren't being taken care of, right? It doesn't matter if it's a headache, a backache, you know. There's so many, I can't tell you how many times I have people come to me and they've gone to doctor after doctor and the doctor can't figure out what's wrong. Well, part of the problem is when they're testing so they can see what drug to put you on, right? Because that's all they got now. That's what they do. And so if the test isn't very specific, you're not going to be able to find the actual real answer. Well, in our case, we do things a little bit differently. So take a look here. This one, they've got drugs. They've got, you know, we're taking pills. We're taking, you know, looking for more energy. We're drinking Red Bulls. I mean, nothing like putting a bunch of chemicals into your body, right? And then look at what's happening to our bodies. Why are we seeing younger and younger people bombarded with these problems? It's because it's our air, our food qualities, and some of the choices that we choose to make that maybe aren't the best choices for us. And so what we want to talk about is we have a system that is being broken. It starts off really good, a healthy cell, but as it gets banged up like that, when a cell duplicates, guess what happens? That cell, when it gets to the age where it should kill itself and go away, the genetic material is supposed to leave that, and it makes a new cell. When the new cell gets made, it doesn't look like that. It's a copy of that. And that's called aging and disease, okay? So how do we help that cell get back to looking like that so that over time, each time it's replicating, it's making a new, nicer, healthier cell? And up until recently, there wasn't a way to do that. That's what we're talking about. As a result of that, we not only see it in the cell level, but we see it in our gut. Our gut, think about our gut as skin on the inside. All right. So you're seeing all this damage happening on the outside that's demonstrating what's happening on the inside. Imagine what your gut's looking like on the inside, right? And so we have so many people with unhealthy guts, and that is a huge, huge reason for many of our disease states. So what's the solution? What I'm happy to tell you about that we've learned so much about recently is activating your health. All right. And these are some tools along with other things we can do to help get us back there. So what does it mean to activate? All right, so we have these genes. Remember, you saw that picture of the cell. There's genes that are in there, and as that cell gets broken down, guess what? The genes start expressing ways to protect you. That's why they express. So you have good genes, and then these other genes that are going to start flipping because they're trying to protect you from what's going on. And when that happens, our body really suffers. So what we're talking about is we now know that there's a way to turn back on those good genes by activating your own body to turn those back on again. And in the process, at a cellular level, we're starting to see the cell over time get healthier and healthier again. All right? And that's the key of what this foundational product does. It's the first breakthrough that's ever been proven to do this activation, to turn on this NRF2 pathway. So you'll hear NRF2, and in today's world, you know what, if a company is doing really well with something, a bunch of people are going to copy it because that's what we do, right? And so they'll say they're NRF2. We don't say we're NRF2. We are NRF2 synergizer or activator. The blend of the products that are put together in this to make this product are specifically blended to get a specific outcome. So what we want to do is to be able to fix the damaged cell, right? We want that NRF2 pathway to come back on, because look at all the oxidative stress. And you know what? See that scale over there? Look at the imbalance that we have. We're talking about everything from cell phones, preservatives, synthetics, pharmaceuticals, they don't even have on there about our emotional stress. You know, COVID kind of put us all in a not great place, right? A lot of stress for a lot of people. And what's going on in our world right now is stressful. And so all of those things start something in our cells called free radicals, all right? Those free radicals cause a lot of problems. And so we need to find a way, and our body has this NRF2 pathway. Now, you've heard of people taking antioxidants from the outside, right? Or it's like, oh, take your antioxidants. Well, that works 1-to-1. Do you see that number? I think it's kind of little for you all on the back, but it's 300 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of zeros. That's a like really big number, okay? If I'm taking an antioxidant and we're talking about 1-to-1 balancing, that's going to take a couple of oranges. I'm just saying, okay? I don't think you're going to get that many oranges in. And so when we took a look at the body producing its own antioxidants, which it does, those are called superoxide dismutase, which is SOD, catalase, and glutathione. That's our whole body can turn those on. And guess what? They neutralize this 1,000,000-to-1. I mean, that's huge. That's a big difference, right?
Yes.
And so what we found was, how on earth do we get this activated again? Because it slows down as we get older, right? So next slide. Sorry. So how do we do that? These 5 things, and I can't tell you how many times I have people, well, I take turmeric, I take ashwagandha, I take green tea, and they tell me they take these things. The thing of it is, and the other thing they say is, oh, there's not enough turmeric in there to do anything. Because they're thinking of supplementation of turmeric, which takes a vast amount of it to show what happened, okay? We're not talking about that. We're talking about 5 ingredients blended in a tiny amount that is more like homeopathy. It's teeny tiny amounts, but in so doing, it becomes another entity. It's sort of like when, you know, when you're baking cookies or when you're making a cake, you know what, you know, flour and sugar, you're putting all that stuff in, what it looks like outside, and then when it goes in the oven, it comes out something else. It's a cake, right? That's what happens when these 5 ingredients get put together. And as a result of it, what they were looking for when they were studying all this is they were looking for something that could help turn on our own antioxidants, the 1,000,000-to-1, versus taking it from the outside and doing 1-to-1. And that's what they found. And what it ended up doing was being a great reduction in cellular stress, a great detoxifier, and most importantly, it lowered that oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. I can tell you that did not make the FDA happy. They were not happy about it. And so they kind of came after us. But guess what? We proved it. We proved we could do it over and over again. And not only did we prove it, but it made such an impact. Well, we had Washington State University say it was going to be the single greatest prevention in the history of medicine. Not just week, decade, month, year, history. When I saw that, I can tell you that I was pretty excited. I know I'm weird. But look at all these studies. And many of them were not paid for by our company. They were independent studies because once they saw there was something that could turn this on in our body, they had never seen that before. They had never seen anybody prove it before. Mm-hmm. And so here's what the study first shows. Look, NRF2, that's the pathway. It's a master regulator of detoxification of antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and cytoprotective mechanisms. All right? It's the master regulator. It's not the master shoving it. It's the master regulator. It's going to go on and off. That is truly the real secret to this foundational habit. Because when we do that, guess what? We're having the things come on and off, giving the body the ability to take care of itself. And that's exactly what the next extract was. Remember I talked about superoxide dismutase, the SOD? Well, guess what? When they did this, they found out that when you take a look at this, look at the results of it. Suggesting protandim not only suppress tumor formation, but also I can't even say the word right. Mechanistically, wow, that's getting big. Modulates pro-inflammatory signaling and the immune system and gene transcription. So you're going, wait a minute, it's turning on inflammation? No, what it's doing is it's turning on and off the response of it. All right, the regulation of it, that's way different. Anti-inflammatory drugs shut it off. But to heal, you have to have inflammation come on and off. And as I'm weird, read an article on the way here. Instead of watching the movie, and she's watching our movies. And it was all about, you're going to start seeing products coming out that are pro-inflammatory because they know that they need that inflammation to heal. And you're going to see inflammation not being in a negative light. Well, the answer is not that we need more inflammation or less, we need the cycle of on and off. Okay, that's what we were seeing. And then take a look at this. The National Institute on Aging, there were all these different things like metformin and all these other things saying that they were extending life. So they said, okay, National Institute on Aging, we all got to pay for that, thank you. Then what they did was it tested like over 150 things. Some were medications, some were nutrients. And the conclusion was that Protandim, by trade name, not those ingredients, but the actual Protandim, was the only nutritional supplement tested that has been proven to increase the median survival in mice. In layman's terms, the mice live long, okay? And guess what? It delayed the aging process and it had the potential to extend the lifespan and delay disease and dysfunction. That's huge. And it was what correlated to about 7 to 10 years in humans, increasing healthy longevity, which I think is just really incredible. So, like we didn't have enough going, having this foundational project, I remember as a science board member, them coming to us and telling us they were doing collagen. And there were several of us, Dr. Melody, Redarte, and myself, essentially going, collagen, really? Yeah, I like nice hair and I like nice nails, but really? Because most of the stuff that was on the market that I saw really didn't have a huge impact, mainly because it couldn't do what we really needed to do. It would add a little bit back into your body, but not do anything else. But the benefits, if you can get the proper amount and collagen of your own that your body makes, look at the things. Yeah, we're going to talk about nail in here. Yes, of course, we want that. But more importantly, think about your gut as skin on the inside, right? As we talked about a few minutes ago. If we are helping that skin on the inside, just imagine how much that's helping us take in nutrients and utilize them more properly. And that's why we see things like eye health, liver function, cardio, and it says cardio flexibility. Well, what is that? Have you ever heard of hardening of the arteries? Okay. They start getting holes in them. And then guess what? Our body starts sending out cholesterol to plug up the holes. Everybody thinks the cholesterol's the problem. The cholesterol is not the problem. The cholesterol is going out as a body response to fill in the holes that are breaking in your blood vessels. So what if you can make those more supple again? Because guess what? The blood vessels are sort of like a skin cell too. Okay, so think of it in terms of all the things it can do: sleep quality, mental health, and brain. And you know what? I can't think of anything more that you want to have intact in your brain, right? So what does this do? It activates. That means it's helping our own body make collagen again. All right, that's to be able to make your own collagen again. It's one of the best ways to keep our body from looking like it's getting older. It's the stuffing in the pillow, okay? Mm-hmm. And we have 10 forms of collagen proteins in there to replenish. The average on the market's 2. And the 2 they use are the 2 inexpensive ones. So, you know, you get what you pay for, I guess. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is we have some that it's very difficult to get into your body. So when we can activate them to be made, that goes a long way. And then we're replenishing. And then most importantly, we're maintaining it. We're keeping the body from breaking it down as fast, which is really, really gonna make a huge difference in what your collagen filler is like in your body. So take a look at this ruby red quinoa. And remember we talked about the genes? It's activating that superoxide dismutase. Remember how we talked about superoxide dismutase? That is reducing all the things at the top of the pyramid. The best way to take care of our body and get those free radicals gone. And look what it's doing. It activates that gene by 2,700%. That's massive. Catalyst. That was the other thing on that chart. 200%. And then guess what? We have a type 1 collagen. That production goes up by 42%. And you can see through the period of time, the 4-week and 8-week, remember the stuffing in the pillow. We're starting to fill that back in. All right. So you want to activate it. Then we're replenishing with the marine peptides. And like I said, 10 types of them, not just 1 or 2. And basically what that's going to do is give not only the density like you saw, but it gives the skin elasticity. That also matters for your brain tissue, your blood vessel tissues, your heart, all of those things we were talking about. That elasticity and moisture is the key to youth, right? We're not going to get those holes and have our blood vessels leaking. So, you know what? There's a potential that you're going to see less cholesterol have to be produced when your blood vessels are strong, which is awesome, right? And then, of course, the maintaining comes from the citrus berry extract. One of the things in there is pumpkin fruit. I've never heard of pumpkin fruit in my life. I don't know what it is. I still don't know what it is. All I can tell you, though, is it's one of several things that when we tested it, it helped the collagen and elastin keep in our body instead of breaking down. It helped maintain it. And this gene, this MMP9 gene, that's what really breaks it down. It helped decrease that. And by doing so, we're not breaking it down nearly as fast. So it's much closer to how we are when we were young, which is awesome, right? So it's so powerful, you got to see for yourself. I love these pictures. Well, there's a couple I don't love. But you see the differences in these people. And you know what? It makes people feel better. But here's the important thing. You're seeing this happen. And yes, I love our guys. Guys need this too, okay? When I see this, these are 15 days, really. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's because you're not breaking it down so fast, right? And everybody has the little areas that really bother them, that they're looking at and going, you know, I'd really like to see this change a little bit. And it's nice because if you're seeing that outside change, I know what's happening on the inside is really good, right? That's the key. And as you can see from these, look at day 15. I mean, these are all people that I know of. Yeah. They're all people that we have all had the chance to see. Some of this I wouldn't even. Do some good things and bad things. We got to test it first, but they told us you need to take a lot of pictures of everything, and I'm like, well, what does that mean, right? And so they're like, no, your arms, your legs, and I'm like, okay, fine. I'm thinking, yeah, right. Well, you know what? I don't know about you, but during COVID, I lost my thoughts on eating. I did not want to eat. When I got COVID, I didn't get that sick, but I lost my appetite and I lost a lot of muscle. That was the result of it. All right. And it happened quickly. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? What am I going to do with this? So I'm taking pictures and I'm like, oh, there's no way. It happened in 3 weeks. Wow. Okay. And I mean, if they weren't my own legs, I don't think I'd be. And all the reasons to get some. Guess what? Thanks to my picture, I motivated a whole. But the bottom line is, look at the results. You can't make this stuff up. Yeah. And this is the body that's taking care of itself. Look at that hairline. Okay? And you see so many different changes. The hard part You don't know what they're going to be. And some of us would like it to be one thing, but it may be another because our body deems that more important, right? So as a result of it, the results, of course, are incredible. So much so that we have patents pending on the two of those taken together because of the impact they had together. And it says new study results. I will tell you this, when they came back to the science board, because we were seeing things we couldn't believe amongst the people that were test people, and then when the product first came out, we need to know the answers to these. So we did some gene studies. Now in gene studies, you can't cheat those. And how do I mean it? So when you're doing like randomized controlled studies, and you have one group that gets something and one group that doesn't or whatever, there's people's own thought processes that can come into play about if they feel better, if they don't feel better, all those kinds. With genes, it's not like that. It's either turned on or it's turned off. And the gene studies, that's how they are. Well, what we found, when they went over these results with us, Melody Rodarte and myself and another member on our board, we were crying. And you go, well, why would you be crying? Because you know what? We have this immune system. You have the immune system you're born with, and then you have something called the adaptive immune system. The adaptive immune system is your body's response so it can go turn on and off things. So, for instance, back in the day, I'm aging myself again, our parents would take us to measles parties. I'm not kidding. So, you're waiting and oh my God. You would go, so you would get the measles because then it was at their time and more convenient because the reason was because they knew once you got them, you weren't getting them again. Because your immune system said, oh, been there, done that. We're done. We got that. That's the adaptive immune system. But guess what? That adaptive immune system today, remember those things earlier that we were talking about? Cell phones, EMS, foods, stress, all of those things are constantly whacking on that immune system. And what the study came back to say was it was mitigating the effects of cellular stress, so it was returning the immune system to optimal function. All right, what does that mean in my real normal language? That the immune system was giving that, okay? It wasn't shutting it off. And a lot of times there's things that will do that. And if you shut it off, guess what? Now you're really in a mess. That can create a lot of problems. But think today, how many diseases do you hear are called autoimmune? Okay, auto means your body's making it itself, okay? And that's because the immune system is so tired out and overworked and constantly on that it has to keep flipping genes to try to mitigate what's going on in your body, okay? So what this ended up showing, and can I see the next slide? We have something called fibroblasts. So the body has things happen, these fibroblast cells, and they're in everything. Look at every part of the body, everything from the small intestine, the thymus, the brain, the lymph system, the lungs. It's everything. They're everywhere. And they dictate what happens in our body. When those fibroblasts come out, they're there to try to protect us, and they will flip the genes to do the things that need to be done. All right? So when you have things like rheumatoid arthritis, which I had in my blood since I was 25 years old, my body was, as I was aging and not keeping up with this stuff, was starting to have that express itself. All right? And those fibroblasts were coming out all the time. And I hurt everywhere. I mean, everywhere, right? But look what this combination does. It helps the fibroblast cells by reducing unnecessary signaling to them. They're taking a nap. They're getting a little bit of a break so it can calm down. So it's just not constantly firing. It recovers from stress. It helps all, remember when we used that slide with all those millions and millions of stress things that are going on? It helps calm that down. And most importantly, by doing that, we're restoring optimal function. All right? That means the body now has the ability to start having the proper genes expressed again. And that's why we're seeing all these different results. That's why Melody Rodarte and I were crying, because we know that unnecessary signaling is the key to why we have all these autoimmune diseases. And so we can't, again, say we treat, mitigate, prevent, or cure. But guess what? Our body can activate again and start taking care of itself again. What we saw with now that I just showed you, if you go to the website and you go into that place for those products, you're going to pull this up. And on page 3, it tells you what I just told you. It's going to tell you these things. And I use that and highlight it. And I have everybody in my group try to do their best to have it laminated and carry a copy around. And so when I have people going to their doctors and their doctors are saying, no, it's not good, you can't have NRF2 or you can't have this or you can't have that. I ask them, I tell them, take this to the doctor, ask the doctor their opinion. Trust me, if they see this, they're going to want to know more because they haven't seen this from anything. No drug companies ever shown them this, no nutrient companies ever shown them this, and they are going to take a look at it because they need to know this. It's one of the reasons they're so frustrated. Remember we talked, you go to the doctor and they can't figure out what's wrong. It's because there's so many things firing and so many genes, unless it's a specific disease that we have a drug for. Nowadays, that's why they test so they know what drug to give you. Now, I tell people, because they'll come to me, I got this, that, and I'm like, I don't care. It's not that I don't care about you. I care about you, but I don't care what it is because I know that combination is going to calm down and give your body what it needs, that little tiny vacation, so it can get back in control. And that's what we want to do here is the activation. Okay. So because of that, we have 3 in our protein line, the NRF2 we talked about, and that's going to take care of all that oxidative stress, those free radicals. It helps neutralize those. The second one is our NRF1. Well, the thing that works in the cell is the mitochondria. That's the little guy in there that takes in food and oxygen, and it helps the cell have its energy. But it has a byproduct. That's why we have an NRF2 pathway, because it makes free radicals in that process. It leaves an oxygen uncoupled. And that oxygen's bouncing all over the place going, hey, let me out of here, right? So guess what? Our NRF1 helps the mitochondria to do a better job, and it also makes more mitochondria. Like when you go to the gym and you're building muscle, you're building mitochondria. When I first started on this product, I was in a world of hurt, having gone through chemo twice and all the stuff and being in a wheelchair. When I started taking these 2, I had people start asking me if I was working out again. That was the difference just in my muscle, just from helping with NRF1 activation to make more mitochondria. Now, what happens when you take NRF1? If you're making more mitochondria, you're going to make a little bit more free radicals. So that's why the NRF2 pathway is there to neutralize that. But then you got the big boss. That's the MAD. And what the MAD is, that's the cheek cleaner upper. That's going to tell them both how to work better. But most importantly, remember back at the first slides when we talked about the cells dying? Well, guess what? Sometimes when things run amok so bad, the cell forgets to die. And it just keeps going. That, my friends, is cancer, inflammation. We call those zombie cells because they haven't died. They can't function properly. And then they continue to make a big mess. Well, for a cell to die, it's called senescence. Okay, I know that's a big science word, but senescence. And what that NAD does is help our cell remember senescence. It helps it remember it needs its time to die so that the new cell comes and helps this whole cleanup. Okay, and so those are our 3 cellular activations. All right, and guess what? When we put that activation into things like shampoos, I mean, you know what? When we put this stuff on our head, the skin on our head absorbs 70% more than the rest of our skin. Most people don't know that, but it's because it's meant to let off heat and be our body regulator. And so because of that, it's much more sensitive. So when we start seeing our hair follicles get beat up, the hair follicle is capable of making lots of hairs, not just one. And so what happens is it starts thinning, and then it finally gets so tired it just dies. All right. The reason we came out with a shampoo is because it has that NRF2 activation in it, and you'll actually see the cells on the scalp be able to take that in without it being a heavy chemical like so many other shampoos are. And it helps the health of the scalp so that those cells create stronger and better hair and more. So it's really cool, and that's the result. And then we can't stop there. We have to go into the skin because you know what? We're back to, we still want to look good. But more importantly, the amount of melanomas and skin problems and psoriasis and scaliness and all these different things that are happening keeps going up. Why? Because we have so much trouble with inflammation. And so what we see here, what a lot of people like to do so they don't show their wrinkles, is a little retinol. The problem with retinol is it doesn't heal your skin or make it function better. It just plumps it out like you put water in a water balloon or something. And so that it artificially pushes that up. And unfortunately, that gets in the way of the normal cell function. And in my mind, if you recall, when you're using retinol, you have to use a lot of sun protection, right? Because it completely removes your body's ability to protect itself from the sun damage, all right? When you look over on the other side and you see NRF2 activation, it has a natural flow in each of the, from the dermis all the way up to the epidermis, and it builds that level again of protection. See that deep red? That's a higher level of protection again for your cell so that it's taking care of itself. And as a result of it, it makes your skin have a beautiful glow. More importantly, it keeps it healthy, okay? And you could see from some of these people, some of the results that they've had. And again, I know these people, and it's amazing to see. Do you think that makes a big difference? Heck yes, right? And so we would be remiss if we didn't talk about our animals, right? So I just came here from Kentucky. I'm going to go home for a hot minute and then be back to Kentucky on Tuesday because there's this weird little thing I could dirk me. My daughter's a veterinarian and she lives in Kentucky, of course, right? So guess what? Back in the day, not real long ago, there's a few of us in here who remember one of the jockeys that had gotten started at NRF2, and I loved meeting him and his wife. And he was one of the jockeys that he was like one of the oldest jockeys still racing because he felt good. But he was the one that told me, you can't believe what it does in horses. Well, I'm like, okay, well, let's see. The next thing you know, I've got friends with a horse with laminitis. What laminitis is the inflammation kind of in their ankle area because their bodies are so huge and their little legs are so skinny and have to take all that pressure. Well, guess what? That gets inflamed. The only thing that those people can do is give them steroids. Well, if they're racing, they're now not racing because that's a performance enhancing drug. So that really cuts into that world. And the horse is still not better because all it did was cover it up. Well, what they found is by taking a couple of the NRF2s, not the peptidine, but the yellow tablets, that laminitis disappeared. And some of those horses were able to get back out and race again, which is incredible. So we took some of that and we put it in Pet for our dogs. And again, they don't have placebo. They don't know. They can't tell yes or no placebo stuff. As they're getting better, they're just feeling better. They're like us. They have an NRF2 pathway too. And look at these two. They're from the same litter. And one of them, NRF2 activated. This one is barely able to move or walk around. That's the difference of the activation in the animals. Remember I talked about that thing about extending life? That's what they see. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I had my Jack Russell until he was 19. I mean, sometimes my husband would say, would you please stop giving him that pill? I seem pretty old. It's a great life. And it was so fun to see him be able to run around and feel good. So that brings us to brain foods, right? Who's here's ever had brain fog? Right? Well, guess what? That happens because all kinds of things happen. Our brain has, things that start accumulating. There's things that it loses its flexibility in cells, just like the blood vessels. And so guess what? The nerves can't get through some of that tissue, or the nerves themselves become damaged, right? So what we needed was this NRF2 pathway to clean things up again in those brain cells. And by doing that, it reduces mental fatigue and brain fog. It gives us a positive mood. Who doesn't need that, right? And here's the best part. It's low carb, vegan, and BSCG approved. What does that mean? Banned substance control group. I can tell you that if you're a golfer or if you're any kind of professional athlete, there's many things you cannot take. That is saying you can take this without any effect. It's not going to be a performance enhancing drug. Yet it improves their mental acuity, concentration, memory retention, all of the things we're looking for. And I was telling everyone yesterday, one of the other things I do for fun is I help run the Sioux. It's a really big golf tournament. And I've had the chance to meet many of the golf professionals. One of the biggest things they struggle with is as they're playing golf, as they start getting toward the end of the day, they are tired. Their brain is tired and they can't focus. And how many times do you see them be leading a tournament and they get toward the end and 2 or 3 holes take them out, right? That mental acuity is so important. And that's what we get with Axial. So take a look at this. We have brain mapping done by Dr. Fannin, who was a specialist in this neurological area. And I love what he did. The first side where you see all the colors, this is where you're seeing all the inflammation going on in the brain. Okay? On the other side, once the Axial is in there, remember, reducing the oxidative stress, everything that's couple of slides that we talked about, and taking that 1,000,000 to 1, well, we're getting it into the brain, and that's the result of it. And what he saw, he could not believe in these kids where they were not even able to really write a word, or if they could, it was all disassembled and you could hardly read it, to all of a sudden they drink this and they could write the word perfect. And that was in a lot of kids. And that turned on a lot of people to understanding how important this was to them. And for me, I can't go a day without it. I mean, I'm turning 70 years old, and I have a lot of things that I have to think about when I'm doing these kinds of conversations, right? And a lot of doctors asking me questions. To be able to have the mental acuity to do that, the Axial makes such a big difference. And so I really love it. And we'd be remiss, a big part of what goes on in our health has to start in our gut. Let's face it. If you're not absorbing the micronutrients and you don't have the microbes to carry things across, they're not supposed to leak through, they're carried. And in that process of being carried by those microbes, there's reactions that are also occurring. All right? So if you don't have proper probiotics, and most people don't anymore because so many of our food items have antibiotics, or you've been on the antibiotics because you've been sick, what happens is you try to take a probiotic, but the average probiotic gets about 4% over through the stomach acid. It gets killed. So we put it in a delayed release technology that not only gets it through the stomach acid, but gets 60% of it through to where it needs to go in your lower gut. And it delivers the proper ones to the proper areas by pH, because there's certain ones that shouldn't be in certain spots or it can make you sick. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times a doctor will tell me don't take probiotics because they worry about it delivering the wrong things to the wrong places. We don't have to worry about that. This takes care of it. And then, of course, is the prebiotic. And people get so confused with prebiotic, probiotic. The probiotic is a culture. It's a living bacteria, microbe. Okay, it's a thing. The prebiotic is what feeds those probiotics. Okay, and they have very specific things that they need. And when we don't give them to them, they die. And we don't have a healthy gut. So it's really important. And what I love most, this prebiotic was one of my formulas. So I was a little bit, I told the company, look, if you don't do this, I think I might have to leave. There's people that will make this. We need to have it. Yeah. And as much as I love our probio, This is even more important because there's certain probiotics you can't put back in your body that you have that we need to feed. We need to be able to take care of them. And when you do that, guess what? It helps suppress appetite. Yes, that's a good thing, right? It helps us have bowel regularity. And here's something so important. It balances blood sugars, okay? 70% of America is pre-diabetic. Why? They're gut scrolling. And they're not utilizing or getting proper micronutrients. So those are really important things. And then we have a couple of other things. D3 is really important. D3 is not a vitamin. It's a hormone. Most people don't know. And it dictates our bones, right? Our bones are the bank. And what the bones do is hold everything in there until the D3 signals them. But if we don't have proper micronutrients to utilize, it won't move the calcium in the right place. It'll let the calcium go. And as we get older, what happens? We get brittle bones because all the stuff that was in the bank goes out and makes, calcium deposits in places it shouldn't. So we need to have a proper balance of D3 and those micronutrients to be able to utilize calcium more properly. That's important. And those of you that haven't heard me talk before about omegas, we didn't need to make another thing, really. I'm like, okay, another thing, right? The reason we did this because most omegas have omega-3, 6, and 9. Because back in the 50s and 60s, we were taught that's what we needed. But guess what? Our food processing puts so many seed oils. How many of you, when you turn over you see the food label, so it's got all kinds of seed oils in there, right? Those are all omega-6. So now we have 30-to-1 ratio instead of 1-to-1, it's 3-to-6. The omega-6 is inflammatory. The omega-3 puts out the fire, it's anti-inflammatory. They have to be 1-to-1 to be equal to take care of your body. And so what we need to do is have a lot more 3s so we can catch up to all those 6s, right? That's what this omega does. And it does it in a really wonderful blend that does a really, really, really good job of protecting our nerves, like wires going through your walls, right? They aren't just naked wires, they're coated. Because you don't want the wall on fire with that electrical going through the walls, you have to coat it so it gets to the plug, right? From the source. That's what omegas do in our body. They're surrounding our nerves, they're surrounding our cells, and they're protecting it, and the signaling that goes has to be there. That's why Grandma used to tell us, eat fish, it's brain food, right? Remember that? Some of you, right? One or two. Anyway, the Icy Bright's great for the eyes. And then daily wellness, when COVID happened, if I had one more person call me for how much zinc and how much magnesium, I was going to seriously hurt something. So I called the company, I said, we got to do this. Can we please put this in a tub for everybody? And I was so proud of them because from the point in time that they had this formulation until we got it out, it was from like the beginning of November. We introduced it in January. It was that fast because they knew how important it was. And what it does is it keeps your immune system balanced. You see it's low here? Yeah, it's important. So those are, some highlights of some of the other products. As you can see here, we have a plethora of them. And the AM PM down at the end was also part of the D3. Those are the micronutrients that people don't get. And the AM is the things that help you wake up in the morning and utilize your body and your energy. And the PM is the things you need at nighttime. When you are waking up at nighttime and not sleeping through the night, it's because your body is telling you, hey, get up. I need these micronutrients. And that's why you wake up. So a lot of people, the first comment they made when they started taking the PM, well, the first thing they said was really another pill. The second thing they said was, wow, that PM, I am sleeping so much better.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's the key. I wish we didn't have to have all of this, but unfortunately our food system isn't giving us what we need. We aren't all growing this in our backyards anymore. Well, at least some of us are. Some might be, I don't know, but this gives us that option to help. And then, you know what we love is to be able to help you decide what's going to work best for you. All right. I personally don't know an animal or person that doesn't need NRF2 based on where we are in our world right now. And beyond that, it's a matter of, you know, what focus would you like to be at? But after I saw that study, I'm going to be saying, I don't know anyone that doesn't need NRF2 in college.
Yes, yeah, amen.
Right? And from there, you know, it's just a matter of what other things you think you might want. But we're here just to make sure we have this information and we have the studies to show it. What most companies do, they're great and they'll go find good products, but they're A, not the science behind the products, and B, they don't have the quality controls we have. Why the FDA allows us to save 40% in 30 days is because when we make the products, we go find the raw ingredients and we test for the activity level, and a lot of the raw ingredients go back to the people trying to sell it to us, and they sell it to everybody else because it might not have the specific activity that we need to have within it. Okay, then we bring it back here and do the same thing again. Then we make the product, then we test it again, then we send it to outside labs. Nobody does that anymore. I was sharing with them earlier today, my pharmacy, to keep my continuing education going, to keep my license, it used to be all positive things and things that were helpful. It was pages of recalls and stuff. And these are pharmaceutical companies, how they're not making things right. And quality controls are not what they used to be. And with us, they are. And that's why we see over and over again such great results. So that kind of ends our portion on understanding products. And so, you know what, there's a couple of things we want to talk to you about and say, okay, well, where do you see yourself with this? You know what, is this, you know, something that is something that maybe you might want to think about taking? You know, our product story is unprecedented. It's breakthrough science, our own category creating. We're nutrigenomics. They gave us that name. We were the first ones to have that name because we proved we were flipping the good genes enough to extend life. I mean, come on. And it's easy to take, right? It's easy to take. And so when you take a look at it, I love our product story, but there's more. When we talk more, we want to talk about the company. One of the things when I decided to get involved, when I figured out I had a moral obligation now, was it's publicly traded. That may not mean a lot to a lot of people. And I had some concerns actually because because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's publicly traded. Oh my gosh, I know about publicly traded. I worked for Eli Lilly, they were publicly traded. You have to tell the truth about everything. You're going to get exposed about everything. And I can tell you, there's a whole lot of these kinds of companies that don't tell you everything. And they're not publicly traded, and they don't have somebody forcing them to do it, but it's a big deal. And then when you take a look at, okay, we do our own research. Most people, their companies are great. I'm not saying they're not good, but they're going and getting somebody else's product that's being made, and they're trusting that that's being done, but they don't know for sure. And my favorite is, I'll have somebody say, oh, well, I'm already taking the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I'd love to see the research. You know, let's take a look. Oh, yeah, take a look at this. Well, guess what? It's somebody over here's research on vitamin C, and this company is borrowing it. But the vitamin C that's in their product is not what was tested. Our research is on our products, on our ingredients, on our stuff. And our product development comes from us. I mean, I had a conversation earlier. A couple of people say to me, you know, it'd be really good if when you're there, you tell them about blah, blah, blah. and that's what we do. We find that's how these products all come to be. And you know what? We have the ability, you know what? This isn't inexpensive, but we want you to be able to afford what you want to be able to. And if you can do that by just sharing with a few friends that you already know have maybe bigger problems than you do, that's the ability to be able to share with others and to be able to afford your products. And so what's really becoming fun is them forecasting out in the future what we're going to need. And I shared last night with a little bit, but I have to usually start NBA things and I can't talk about stuff. I can tell you that in October, something huge is coming that's going to make a huge impact. And I'm so excited about it because I know it's a huge, huge problem in America. And there's a lot of people trying to fix these problems and they haven't been able to. Well, our company is so good at knowing what we need to do ahead of time and working on that ahead of time so that when things start falling apart for other things, we have the answer. So the bottom line is, you know what? It's so fun to be part of a company that all of us on the science board, I would put our science board up against any other company. We have some incredible people. Dr. Sveta Silverman, oh my goodness. She was a pediatric surgeon in Russia. Then she moved to Canada. And they said, yeah, we don't know if we buy all your education. So she went back to school and did medical school again. Now she does, I think, breast cancer surgical photography. Yes, that's her specialty. The woman is brilliant, okay? And when she first heard about this, I'll never forget it because she was down in Arizona. She came down there for a meeting and I met her at this meeting. And she was just like, this cannot be real. This can't be real. This cannot be real. And I'm, you know, and I'm like, well, do you know who LSU is? Do you know? And you know, we started going through and she's like, this is unbelievable. Why isn't everybody on this? I said, exactly. And you know what? Guess what? Careful what you wish for. When you start asking questions, you end up on the science board. It's great. But look at our story. We've got growth that's going to be huge. And I wish I could tell you what's coming in October, but what I can tell you is it's huge. It's a huge problem here. Huge, big. That'll be the answer. That's right. And guess what? We're really, it sounds ridiculous for a company that's been around for a while, but we're really just starting out. Yeah. Right? We have milestone of $1 billion. And I can tell you that used to seem a long way off. Okay, we're at 200 million. But let me tell you what, October is going to bring us there really fast. Okay, because it's going to change a lot of things. And you know what? It's stabilization. Our company, when you think about it, you know, this company is debt free. Look at all the things that we've done. That's an incredible statement to make in the world we're in right now. And that's because they make really good choices. And I love that they listen to all of us out in the field. So here's the perfect vehicles. Leading activation. You're going to start hearing that from all over the place because they love to copy the verbiage. But they can't prove it. We do. Okay, we have the science to back it. 60,000 consultants. Oh my goodness, we need lots more. We need lots more, right? We need to be able to share this. Headquartered in Utah, debt free. And you know what? Who has heard of social selling? That's what's happening right now. Everybody's on Facebook and Instagram and all kinds of marketing everywhere, right? And it's another way to share what's going on here. We have leveraged income. It's a turnkey business. You can decide to come in and do whatever part of it you want to. And most importantly, you don't have to carry inventory. I remember back in the days, you know what? I grew up, I told you, Holland, Michigan. Guess what? Do you know where Amway is? They're in Michigan, right? So I grew up with all that around me. Back then, they had to carry their own inventory. Yep. They had to give it out to their people. So we had friends, they had garages full of stuff. And I love them. We don't have to have it. All we need is what we're going to put in our mouth, right? Because the company is going to take care of that. And I love that. It's so easy. And more importantly, as fantastic as these products are and unprecedented, there is nothing that beats the community of this company. The people that are in this company, oh my gosh, there's so much love and care for all of us. I mean, it's just really, truly a benefit to be part of that community. We all get beat up in our everyday lives. There's so many people that don't support us, that don't make us proud of what we do, or they're looking for an angle to not have us be the best we can be. And what I love about this is we all lift each other up. And it really is truly the best part for me of the company. And so you have to decide. It's really simple. Would you like to be a customer? You want to be a customer? Would you like to become a consultant? You can do whatever fits you, right? But I can tell you that when we take a look at this, many of our customers will come on and get started like me, and then end up having something happen so unbelievable that they feel that obligation to share. And that happens with many, many of our customers. And so, you know what? This becomes the question. Do I want to become a customer? Do I want to join as a consultant to be part of this? Or do I need more information and more questions answered? It's one of those three things. And so I want to say thank you tonight for being here. Hopefully we can answer some of the questions if you do have them. But I can tell you that that's something that's going to be going inside of me the rest of my life. And I'm so excited to be here. So thank you again for being here.